Okay, filmmaking books. I'm a film and a video editor, so most of these are about editing, but I'm interested in all stages of filmmaking, so there are positions on writing, directing, and even book scripts in my collection. By the end of the video, I'll try to pick 5, which I would take with myself to Mars, to space, desert island. And if you're not a strong reader, we'll also talk about audiobooks. And I'm just gonna leave you with the quote from Casey Neistat. Reading is like leaving the house.
Yes, you can go your whole life without doing it, but you're not really experiencing all life has to offer.
Let's start with the classics. Rebel Without a Crew by Robert Rodriguez. This is basically a diary Robert Rodriguez wrote as he was working on his first feature film El Mariachi. It talks about all stages of the filmmaking process, is super insightful, relevant even though it was written 28 years ago, but his mindset is as fresh as a lemon. I love this book, it's also funny.
What do you mean funny? Funny how?
And it has the script of El Mariachi at the end, and in the epilogue you've got the Robert Rodriguez 10-minute film course. Brilliant few pages that are so soaked with precious information. Next one, please. On Directing Film by David Mamet. This is a series of lectures David Mamet gave at Columbia University. I find this book to be very interesting. It stresses the point on moving the plot forward and being deliberate with every decision you make on a film set. It's also a very short read. You can read it in like 2 or 3 hours. And personally, a book like this, I read it with a pencil so that it's easier to go back to the book and just like, you know, reiterate on the takeaways that were very insightful to you. And we've got Making Movies by Sidney Lumet, one of the most important directors of the last century. It's just a fun read. It's like a novel, I think, to some extent. It talks about how the whole filmmaking process looks like, the importance of knowing what a theme of the film is, and how it influences all of the decisions you make throughout the whole filmmaking process. And you know, the man is the legend. 12 Angry Men is one of my favorite movies of all times. I love this book.
I love this book.
Another one that I just love is In the Blink of an Eye. I talked about this book many times on the channel because this is a Bible for film editors, but also because of the way it's written, I think it's just a must read for anyone interested in any avenue of filmmaking. My copy is signed by Walter Murch. I was lucky to interview him. If you haven't seen that interview yet, I will like put the card somewhere here. And Walter is just someone who not only is a film and sound editor, but also a philosopher and someone who uses amazing analogies, metaphors, and so on to explain challenges of film editing and filmmaking in general. And by the way, he's writing a new book. I even had the pleasure of reading one chapter, and I can tell that it will be amazing. Okay, the next one is a classic as well, Save the Cat. The subtitle says, The Last Book on Screenwriting That You Will Ever Need. I did a video about that book a while ago. I'll also post it somewhere here. A very interesting read, although there are accusations, like air quotes, accusations, that the book teaches a very formulaic type of screenwriting, but the rules are there for the reason, and there are patterns that Blake Snyder just exposes. And also I think the success of this book comes from the fact that it's easy to read. Like the way it's written, if you love movies, you love the book, even if you don't intend to write your own feature. Oh, that one is heavy. A bit of dust. This book is very important to me because that's the first book I read aloud to my son. He was a few weeks old when I read it to him. I just wanted to read something about filmmaking and also him to hear my voice. So the first audiobook that my son has listened to is Film Directing Shot by Shot by Steven Katz. And to be clear, this is not an easy read. Each of the books that we have just discussed could be read in like less than 5 hours. This one is much longer. Also, there is not much narrative going on between the paragraphs, between the chapters. But if you're interested in film directing, this is a Bible. Prep work, visualization, staging, blocking, all of these things that are important for every director out there. You'll find examples from the movies that you probably love or that you have to put on your watch list. Because that's actually another thing that is very important if you want to learn filmmaking. You need to watch movies. A short interruption, if you like this video, give it a like, it really helps. Thank you. Okay, anyway, so this is the newest position in my book collection. Don't miss out on any avocado milkshakes. Read written by Troy Takaki. I can't recommend this book enough. It's super short. It's like 80 pages long. You can read it in 2 hours and it has so many valuable lessons. It's not about technical aspects of film editing, because by the way, yeah, Troy is a film editor, but very often he focuses on mindset that we as film editors and filmmakers should have. So even if you're not editing films, this is something that you can easily translate to anything that you do. And actually Troy writes that if he were to summarize the book in one line, it will go like this: be early, do great, be full of joy. Yesterday I watched an interview with Paul Rogers, the editor of Everything Everywhere All at Once, and he actually touched on the problem of working long hours and the fact that it's being very often glorified by the filmmaking industry.
There's a problem in our industry that the more you kill yourself for a movie, the braver you are, and that's bullshit. The more fully we are able to live our lives and the more humanely we treat ourselves and the people around us, the better we can do our jobs.
Anyway, I love this book because it's super short and just joyful to read. Art of the Cut is the next one. This is a series of conversations with film and TV editors, and this is just super insightful if you want to know the process of top-tier editors out there. But I have to warn you, it's not an easy read. It's mostly for people that are serious about film editing, so I don't think this is a broad appeal book, but amongst editors, this is one of the favorite books that people have. Documentary Editing Principles and Practice by Jacob Bricka. I actually had the pleasure of interviewing Jacob. You can listen to that episode of the podcast. This is one of the best interviews that we did. Jacob edited many documentary films, but he's also teaching at the University of Arizona. So this is more like a course book, like a handbook, but it breaks down the process like one step at a time. I highlighted so many things in it. Super good, super insightful. Actually, once again, I did a full video about this book, so if you want to learn more, there will be the link here. Love this book. And Cut to the Monkey, a Hollywood editor's behind-the-scenes secrets of making hit comedies. Written by Robert Nagard. Once again, this is an excellent book, but I have to admit that I wouldn't read the first chapter again. He uses a lot of references that for me, someone who's not from the US, are not like as obvious and clear. It's just not the best way to start the book, to be honest. I literally like suffered from the first like 40 pages, but the rest of it is great. And many notes that I have written on the sides. And actually we'll have a book club discussion in the Editing Chef, my premium course for editors, where we'll be discussing this book, like what we've learned from it. Is the first live session of the film book club that we will have. And I think the most important thing that I came to understand when I read this book is that it's important to write as a film editor, as a filmmaker in general. The skill of writing, of coming up with the stories, of building the stories, constructing the stories, is just essential to being a good storyteller. And this book helped me to understand it. I'm writing these days. So yeah, Cut to the Monkey, a great book. And the next one is the book I finished reading like 2 weeks ago, The Conversations between Walter Murch and Michael O'Dantien, the author of the English Patient novel. And this, without a doubt, is one of my favorite positions on my bookshelf. A lot of great takeaways from the brilliant mind of Walter Murch, once again, this time in a longer format than in the blink of an eye, but also there are like specific examples and stories about films he has edited, his thinking process, and just the way it's published. I love the format of this book. I love the way it looks. I love the pictures in it. You get to know Walter Murch a little bit on a personal level. At least you get that feeling that you have like a, window into his life. It's definitely a position I will be returning to. Now into some books I don't have in a physical form. The first one, Directing Actors by Judith Weston. It's also read by the author and is just a brilliant audiobook. Let me just read from the summary. Judith Weston demonstrates what constitutes a good performance, what actors want from a director, and what directors do wrong. She also goes over script analysis and preparation and how actors work, and she shares important and helpful insights into the director-actor relationship. I plan to re-listen to that book very soon, but also I will probably get it in a physical form anyway. It's just so good. I got it. And I'm not the only one to recommend it. I think this has become a standard in the industry, the one that opens your eyes and gives you those light bulb moments. And the next one is Alex Ferrari and Rise of the Filmtrepreneur. Filmtrepreneur. The subtitle says How to Turn Your Indie Film into a Profitable Business. And I think it shows what the reality of making money as an indie filmmaker is. I find myself coming back to some of the chapters in it, because sure, we're making art, but at the same time, if it's not sustainable, then it's not gonna work in the long long run. Okay, the next one is How Not to Make a Short Film by Roberta Marie Monroe. Once again, a very practical book. It takes you one step at a time of how to make a short film or how to not to make it in this case. And also it's read by the author, which I always appreciate. And then I have script books. So the first one on the list is The Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And this screenplay is just brilliant. I love it. I almost cry when I read it. It always gets me. I don't know. It's just one of those. I strongly recommend it. The next one is Joker and the Official Script Book. And this one starts with a conversation with Todd Phillips. It also has a lot of great graphics as well as stills from the film. I don't know, a book like this just brings a smile to my face. And also I think it's important we just read scripts because it gives you an idea not only about how stories are constructed in a written form, but also how a script can be translated into that final image on the screen. So yeah, that's a jewel in my collection. Another one. And the last one for today is a graphic novel in storyboards of Parasite. It's basically a script, but with storyboards Bong Joon-ho prepared before shooting. There are only a few moments that are not present in the final cut, so it gives you a good idea on how much preparation goes into making his movies. I'm definitely getting more of these script books. I love this format, but if I were taking a starship and going to Mars tomorrow, and I could take only 5 filmmaking books to take with me, this is what I would take. To be clear, this is a personal choice, personal preference, and also it's hard not to include some of those books in that list. Like for example, In the Blink of an Eye, I love this book so much, but I have written it a few times already, so I wouldn't take it with me to Mars. Instead, I would take The Conversations because once again, it gives me more insights into a brilliant mind of Walter Murch. The next one would be Don't Miss Out on Any Avocado Milkshakes. Very short, very concise, and gives you a very great idea of what your mindset as an editor should be. The next one would be Rebel Without a Crew, because this one actually reminds you that it's not enough to talk about movies, you should be making them. That's an advice I have to take personally to myself, and hopefully in a few months you will hear more about that. And number 4 is Making Movies, Sidney Lumet. This is a brilliant book, I need to have it on Mars. And the last one, Directing Actors by Judith Weston. So listen, if you don't have a collection of film books and that's something that you want to catch up with, just take those 5, you'll not be disappointed. I'll try to link them in the description, I'm not sure if I will, but you can check. And if you're in mood for watching more, please watch the roundtable discussion I did with 6 amazing editors in December 2022. I plan to do another one in May this year. Till the next time, and happy filmmaking!